Limba, limba, limba tuba ove me, limba tuba ove me, limba tuba me baha. Thanks and praise, all you lovely dissidents. Have a wonderful episode on offer tonight. I want to talk a great deal about the divine archetypes as they relate to the Enneagram, both through history of the past and bring a lot of it up to speed into future context as the social engineers on the world stage are they're playing their part. They're definitely playing their part. Always reminding people that the word theo, it means both planets, wanderers, gods, and racers. And the race is on right now. And the pan is circadian, the bread and the circus is running around the tracks, playing games in our psyche. So I just wanted to bring some of these ancient terms and correspondences into modern day context for the world stage. And also I want to share some of the wonderful little discoveries I've made regarding the instrument that I love so much, the Brazilian pandeiro. This is a 5-symboled pandeiro. This is a standard Brazilian capoeira instrument. And I have discovered its significance to the Greeks. It is a very, very sacred implement, even to the Greek culture. And amongst the Greeks, it was known as the timpania. Today, in English, we call it a very similar name, the tambourine. Now, the timpania of the Greeks may have had a different number of symboles, but in the creation myth of the Greeks, they say that the archons cast symbols, all around the realm. And in the Orphic Mysteries, they profess to have drinking from the sacred timpania. But let us not forget that the eardrum is made very, very correspondently, and even the anatomy of the eardrum has words that are also fundamental means of implementing the sacred timpania of this pandeiro right here, this pandeiro. Now, one instrument I want to share is the rix. I've discovered the rix. Some would say it is the African pandeiro or the African tambourine. And it's played in a very different manner with a totally different ergonomic relationship to the instrument itself. I believe the standard rix only has 4 symbolas around it, but it's very piercing. It's incredibly piercing. The means of playing that instrument is something very different and much more, even more elaborate. There's much more of a hand dance that's going on with the rix. But this is really gratifying to me, as I've corresponded the pandeiro and all of the instruments of the capoeira roda to cards around the Enneagram, as I do believe that the Plato Symposium is symbolizing a complete hypersigil of very complex and myriad layers of significance. But originally, I saw the pandeiro as the star card, as she is kind of silhouetting the moon there, and holding up the Centaur constellation, one above, one below. But I can see the entire moon. If I put my hand in her little booty, grab her booty there, I'm basically holding on to a tambourine. And also, in some of the trick, musicians can actually flip and spin and even roll, just like the Globetrotters. They can roll the tambourine off their arm and even throw the tambourine to other musicians. There are juggling tambourine acts in this world. It is so fantastic. So in my original read, I saw the tambourine very correspondent to um, this card, also because Terpsichore is very often depicted carrying a tambourine as she joins into, when Alcibiades comes walking into the symposium, there's a woman in the painting, there's a woman carrying a tambourine as it's time for the party to get started. And the ladies are breaking into the boys' time. Now, the Chariot card is the card that I see the Ricks depicted in. And as you can see, the thumbs of the charioteer are at the bottom of his sacred chalice. This, again, is the Crator constellation. The Crator constellation is the ace of all cups. It's the alpha egregore of all cups ever, because it's the biggest cup you'll ever see in your life. But I'm looking at this card as it might correspond to the Ricks, and it dawns on me that he's in a rickshaw. He's literally riding around in a rickshaw. So I really love this because, anatomically speaking, I have corresponded the Plato Symposium with the actual elements of playing the tambourine, in which case the thumb is in Socrates' position. The thumb is what determines the sense. There's actually a tamponing of the sound that is done with the thumb, and it has a secret diatema montanea, a hidden mountain from underneath, that actually pierces the skin, that punctures the skin. Diatema montanea is a loose anagram for the doubting Thomas. And so the doubting Thomas puncturing the skin of Christ is happening on every tambourine you've ever heard. So yeah, there's a secret oracle speaking from the underrealm that is occurring on the left-hand path of Plato's Symposium. When Socrates is in prison, at the end of his days, he's asking himself, have I accomplished the greatest and highest form of art? And his demonic spirit is like, no, bro, you forgot about music. And he's like, but I thought philosophy was the highest art. And she's, no, you need to get some music before that ship shows up. So he spends his last days writing dithyrambs to Dionysus. Here's this number 3. This is Dionysus. This is Pan. This is Moses. This is Neptune. These are the musical and the nautical. This is a great amount of the nautical significance is on this number 3. This phenomenological shimmer of the illusion of knowing anything at all. When you get drunk on the words of Slick Dissident, there is a shimmer illusion happening when my encoded symbolas are unpacked in your mind. And that is why he spent his last days writing dithyrambs to Dionysus. So, the number 7, on his final days, was instructed to become familiar with the number 3. That is where the other hand is playing this instrument at large. And so, a fascinating thing, when I convert the cards from their presentational immediacy, the Chariot card, number 7, comes down right there to the number 4 spot. And the 17 card is the 7th prime number. And that actually puts her into Socrates' seat. And the Chariot, the rickshaw, the Ricks, by the way, has 4 symbolas on it. Has 4 chimes around the edge of the Ricks, R-I-Q. It's spelled R-I-Q. 17 is the 7th prime number, R-I-Q. So I'm putting the Ricks down here on number 4 spot, next to the number 3 spot, and I want everybody to think about the hiccup between Eryximachus and Aristophanes. And consider that when you put the phenomenological shimmer onto the tambourine, it is often a 4-beat pattern expressed with 3 sounds. So I'm putting the 4-ribbed ricks in the 4 spot, but there's this missing sound, and it is the blank in between. It is the space holder. It is the 0. It's the nothing. Okay? So your standard capoeira rhythm is simply 1, 2, 3, blank. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm putting the rickshaw of Eryximachus in this 4th position, but eventually he gets switched out and moves into the 3 position. So I'm keeping this very mobile card. By the way, G.I. Gurdjieff was a horrible driver. He had a terrible car accident and has a profound reputation for being a terrible chariot driver. But I'm putting it in the 4th spot, as the 7 is the 4th prime. I'm putting 17 in the 7th spot because 17 is the 7th prime. And the rickshaw is landing exactly where it belongs. This card is also correspondent to a train. When Socrates is in the dialogue with Phaedrus, the rhetorician, number 1, he says to Phaedrus, I am catching your train. And some would say this is metaphor for your train of thoughts, but to the Greeks, it was to say, I am being entrained unto the flavor of your frenzies. I am tuning into, I'm singing your song now, bro. I gotcha. I'm catching your train. And so this train of the Chariot card is becoming increasingly significant to me. As it moves from its first layer of presentational immediacy, number 7, and I bring it down to this number 4, where the switch between Aristophanes and Eryximachus is articulated in Pandero playing at large. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Expressing the fulfillment of the 4. The quadrivium and the trivium. Lots of fun mysteries at hand. Also, I want to share a new product from my slickdistant.com. Check out the merch down below. There will be a link for everybody. In the Telegram group, somebody was asking about the difference between Prometheus and Lucifer. And I found this to be such a rewarding conversation, thought experiment that I, in fact, ended up inspired to produce what I'm calling the Lunalemma hoodie. So yeah, in preparation for the cold season, I've merched up a symbol of the moon. And I want to give people some context for where the inspiration for this creation was birthed from. So the question was, is Lucifer correspondent to Prometheus, and if so, in what way? And my immediate reaction was they are diametrically opposed because Lucifer is a misanthrope and Prometheus is a philanthrope. So the number 2 personality type is a giver with the shadow of pride. Pride is the infernal name, the infernal name for pride is Lucifer. And the planetary association with the number 2 giver is the moon. This is really satisfying for me. Now, Lucifer has too much pride. Pride is a trigger word right now. It's been a trigger word for a decade now. So, I'm going to buzz on pride and Lucifer and the moon for just a moment. And then I'm going to try to give Prometheus his due props on the Enneagram. To the Yazidi, they have a myth of Lucifer that is probably very authoritative. Let's put it that way. It's kind of got that Milton's Paradise Lost, turning Lucifer into a protagonist, so to say, as Lucifer went through a great fall. And Yazidi, they refer to Lucifer as the Iblis, and they signify this Iblis character as the Peacock. A lot of people are thinking about NBC, and that's probably very apropos. as NBC has the peacock as their emblem. Now, fascinatingly enough, when you overlay the Iblis peacock onto its Greek correspondence, you end up looking at the myth of Argos. Argos, Argus, it's an anagram for sugar. Argos was a 100-eyed giant who was sent by Hera to catch Zeus in the act. And Zeus sent a counterintelligence agent, Mercury, number 5, to intoxicate Argos and sing him to sleep with a lullaby. And it took a very long time because Argos is covered in 100 eyes. And so slowly but surely, the 100 eyes of Argos start to close until the very last eye is closed, at which point Mercury jumps on, chops his head. Mission accomplished. Hera takes Argos and puts him back together again and turns him into a peacock. And I, at first, perceived this as the Pavo constellation, which, where's my stick? Pavo constellation is in the extreme south. Actually, let's do this. Let's get this map. Pavo constellation is in the extreme south, and you can't really see it on the map very well, but it's next to Indus right here. And sure enough, here's Capricorn, directly in the same day of the year as we're progressing along the elliptic plane. Indus is invoked or given the same quadrant of the sky, directly in parallels to the Capricorn card. So the High Priestess card in the number 2 spot is indicating to me her affiliation to the moon. Hera is called White-Armed Hera. Now, there is some confusion in some other contestants, as directly north, we're coming on Cassiopeia, and Cassiopeia does have a camel at her toes. So while I want to give the High Priestess to Capricorn proper, I'm thinking about Indus, this Native American character with generally some sort of headdress. Sometimes he's carrying plumbata spears. Y'all should look up what a plumbata spear is. But next to him is this this peacock, the Pavo constellation. So while I'm having this conversation, it dawns on me how the 100 eyes of Argos correspond beautifully to the craters of the moon. The craters of the moon is like 100 eyes, and it's a giant up in the heavens. And this is also all very correspondent to the fact that Hera is generally given the attributes, her holy, divine, feminine Trinity aspect. She gets aspects of Capricorn, which is an earth element, Taurus, which is an earth element, and Virgo, which is an earth element. So in her divine Trinity, she both has the Virgo, the Capricorn, and the Taurus. Taurus is approximately 9 months away from Capricorn also. That's another fun thing about the trinities of the zodiac is they also identify 9-month birth cycle relationships. So, Argus, Peacock, the moon, 100 eyes, all of these things landing in Hera's dominion over here with this number 2. Lucifer with the shadow of a giver with the shadow of Lucifer, and a remedial virtue of magnanimity or greatness of soul. And I think there's something behind greatness of soul. I think it's actually encoding being multilingual, being a polyglot, is to have greatness of soul, to speak many languages. That's a theory. But always with the misanthropy. For some reason, the moon is being depicted with misanthropy all the time. There's almost a battle of the sexes being imbued into vilifying the moon, making the moon evil. So I think if the collective homunculus of the zeitgeist of the masses wants the moon to be evil, then it is incumbent upon us to face that devil, to gain more affluence and learn its codes, its patterns, its cipher, the loose cipher. And we happen to know that the ladies in the world are harmonizing to that loose cipher. And so I am paying more attention to the lunar calendar more than ever, as I do believe that because the Navaratri seems to be uh, the target of trauma rituals, it means that they're really going after the ladies. They're going after the ladies on their moon cycles, which turns out women be having periods whenever they damn well please. It's not totally synced up to the moon, but with the modern day world of technology, women are syncing up to each other from vast distances in wild and profound ways. So, in terms of the world stage right now, Kamala Harris is playing the role of the priestess card. The word Harris in reverse is Sarah. It means heiress. She's the heiress. She's just going to inherit the presidential seat, which she might already be in that seat. It turns out she's getting up on the podium, and the podium that she's administering her speeches from is already the presidential seal. It is already the presidential seal. So, yeah, the accuser, big time, the Yakuza has totally put the moon in its misanthropic role yet again. So, I made a hoodie for the moon, and we're going to do some theurgic blasphemy and hijack the symbol out from under these symbol workers. That's my jam. So yeah, I'm used to think of the Enneagram as I studied it through Dante. I thought of the Enneagram as Pandemonium, the house of all demons. I have a wonderful copy of Dante. I highly recommend people get copies of Dante with the actual paintings. There's a great series of paintings that are done in correspondence with the classic art of that story. Um, but when I did studying the Enneagram through Dante's Inferno, I found Pandemonium. I found the house of all demons. But then when I studied Plato's Republic and studied the Greeks, I start learning about eudaimonia, and that is the house of the good spirits. So yeah, I'm working the correspondences of these energies and these systems to commit a blasphemy, to undermine the archonic presumption that these fools can make the moon our enemy. That is tomfoolery. Another aspect of Hera, signifying the moon, this number 2, the second muse is the muse of Clio, and she is known for the written history. Polyhymnia, her sister in number 1 spot, does the speaking. She's the rhetorician. Number 2 is the muse of history. That is what is written down. She's also often depicted carrying stone tablets. The moon is embedded with these craters and given the names of great influencers from the mundane realms. Archimedes, his name is on one of the biggest craters there are. And so the history of the greats and their impact on humanity is commemorated if your name can be glorified through Clio, the muse of history, and written on the stone tablet in the heavens. Number 2. All right, I'm going to move over to Prometheus. Prometheus is he is a philanthrope. Unlike Lucifer, unlike the moon, he's a philanthrope. I see him powerfully correspondent to the number 8 personality type. I want to give him number 7. His name is forward thinking. Some would say Sapantaminu. Sapantaminu does have a strong number 5 relationship. It has the Panta in it. and it is a god of the Scythians, um, and definitely has that forward thinking. Even with the panta, is also means like to think. Um, so there is a strong number five relationship to sapantaminu, forward thought. Um, but I see Prometheus as number eight, even more so, as the eighth in the International Astronomer Units, IAU. The Andromeda is the 19th constellation by size. And so that is profound because in the Andromeda constellation is the main source of promethium coming out of the head of the Andromeda Nebula, maybe Andromeda cluster. It is the main source of promethium in the universe, number 61. And number 61, that is the 18th prime. So Andromeda, being the 18th largest constellation, is, excuse me, the 19th. She's the 19th, right? Yeah, she is. She's the 19th because the 19 is the eighth prime number. Um, uh, but I'm giving Andromeda Prometheus. I'm giving him this signifier of the number eight, and part of the reason why is oxygen. Oxygen is number eight on the Enneagram, or on the periodic table. And I want everyone to consider how Alcibiades was dancing, he was acting, he was embodying, he was doing the filiourgy of expressing his love through action. Everybody else was sitting around, a little loungeabouts. But it was Alcibiades who comes busting in, much like an interloper, but he is expressing filiothropy, love for mankind. And a lot of people get caught up on the orgy of it, but they miss out on the theurgy of it. And so I'm going to give Prometheus his due props, in signifying the aspect of number eight personality type, achiever, no, excuse me, a controller with the shadow of lust, remedial virtue of sympathy. Sympathy. Now, let me say this as well. I believe that moving the star card back to its original position in the number eight spot and considering it for Prometheus, forward thinking is the translation of his name. I want to invoke our understanding, our limited understanding on future tense verbs. Future tense verbs. The entire Greek language was verb centric. You could, in fact, I've made this metaphor before, but you could throw, if you write an entire sentence on a bundle of knuckle bones, only one of those bones should be unique. And you would make it the metatarsus, or the trapezius bone. And when you throw the bones scattered about, the only bone that you need to pay attention to is the trapezium, because it is the verb that actually commands the order and the affiliation of all the other words in the sentence. The Greek language was anagrammatical. You could scramble the words around, but whatever the verb is doing, it tells you how to order the rest of the verbs. It has control. The verb has control in the Greek language. We have lost this. I believe that Prometheus is the future tense verbs, which today are regulated and harnessed in your becoming entitled on a contract. Putting your name in the top of the contract is to be in control, to be entitled. But also, when you take on the burden of the presumption to fulfill the contract, you're putting yourself in the Promethean seat. as you are now the charge. You are now in charge of executing the future tense verb that the contract compels you to. All right. Yeah, future tense verbs, oxygen, number 8, Prometheus. I'm putting him in the number 8 position. And a lot of people think about the eighth sphere of Ahriman. And, Ahriman has this great deceiver. I don't see him up in that number 8 position as much. I see Ahriman very much in the number 3 spot with that shadow of deceit. Yeah. However, the 7, 8, and the 3 are powerfully related to each other in the Enneagrams. The 7s, the 8s, and the 3s are considered the most assertive trine. So, this is also the Schumann resonance of Schumann resonance of the planet Earth is 7.83 is the foundational fundamental. So a lot of people want to think about Prometheus as maybe being Ahrimanic, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think he's forward driven, very much in this 8 position. I see the Ahrimanic deception deceiver is much more of a number 3 type. So there is a connect. Now, also, I should say this. In the thelemic circles, there's a big to-do about 8 equals 3. Some people might be thinking this. I want to maybe direct your attention to in what way is the ordinal reduced gematria, how and why might it overlap with the 13-based gematria? Tresca, what is it called? I don't think I have it here. Yeah, I'll bring up a graphic. I'll bring you a graphic for the 13-based alchemy. They share that this is where 8 does equal 3. This is where 8 does equal 3. So I'm going to put that on people's radar. I'm going to be really obtuse about it. And also, I wanted to talk about DMT and the Minotaur. I'm already at a half hour. All right. DMT, Dante. DMT, Dante. Dante's Inferno requires him to meet up with his psychopomp, Virgil. And the psychopomp gives him a tour of the realm of the infernal cycles. And he goes through the 9 layers of hell. Lucifer falls for 9 days in Milton's Paradise Lost. And then they crash to the earth and they lay around for 9 more days after that. And they all have new names when they wake up. And there are certain words they're unable to pronounce. So, Dante's Inferno, DMT, and meeting a psychopomp that's going to give guidance through these dimensions. Dante lacks a shadow. The spirits in hell are disturbed by this person who is here with no shadow. That indicates that they're not actually dead. There's a living person amongst us. Also, the entire background is full of people toiling, characters toiling in various creative ways. Very much like DMT elves. I just think that the correspondence of Dante and DMT is requisite. It even, the street name of DMT is Dimitri. There's this Demeter who goes into the underworld to negotiate for Persephone's release. I'm going to say something that is really obnoxiously unsubstantiable. But I ponder what would the result be in a heroskamos, a holy wedding of a individual who is on one type of drug having intercourse with an individual on a completely other type of extreme rare substance. Is there a heroskamos of a between two people on 2 different planes? per the pharmacos that they imbibed upon before taking a pilgrimage through the Garden of Pleasure. Yeah, I think DMT and ayahuasca have a Heros Gamos potentia with another substance that is harvested from extremely um, um, obscure sources. Let's say that. Check your sources, y'all. All right. DMT, Dante, uncanny. It's uncanny. Now, I guess I should I'll bring forward the winter triangle. um, a lot of folks might notice that this formula for going into the underworld also comports to Santa Claus, who is basically a big walking psychedelic mushroom, who has machine elves toiling in his workshop. That's actually a term that Nietzsche used, the diabolical workshop of the mind. Um, but I want everybody to know that the winter triangle is the big bag of goodies over the shoulder of the Orion constellation. And in the winter triangle, there's not only the Montosaurus and the printing press, which is where he knows where if you've been sleeping, he knows if you're big, bad, or good. But there's also a Christmas tree nebula. There's a Christmas tree nebula in the winter triangle that is Santa's sack over his shoulder. And this is basically displayed in The Grinch That Stole Christmas, where he has the big bag on his sleigh behind him, and there's the little dog at his heels, very correspondent to that full card, that Orion full card. When it's depicted in the Rider-Waite deck, I want to say that the Rider-Waite full card is springtime oriented. The Thoth full card is more winter oriented, as I perceive him more correspondent to Boötes, and even Felix, this cat on his hip, is correspondent to the Felix constellation. Yeah, a lot more of a fall full card in the Thoth deck. Oh, it's going to stay. Okay, now I want to talk about I found the map of South America that is about to be fulfilled by the shapes of this full card. The map of South America looks very much like Boötes, which is also on this full card. On the hip of this full card is the Boötes constellation. Sure enough, I'm looking at the Rider-Waite Fool, and I see a map of South America in between his legs. Right in between his legs is a map of South America again. In between his boots, again, the same thing. And also there's this theme of the banana color with his boots. And this, the banana skin is the primordial condom. It is the premier condom. Yeah, don't slip on a banana peel and accidentally land in a condom. But very recently, Essential Salts just did an episode talking about Frederick Nietzsche being rumored. And also, this is a fabricated rumor. It's socially engineered to the extreme. Entire books written on the subject. Frederick Nietzsche is rumored to have met with Dom Pedro, the Emperor of Brazil. This is a procyon flower, which is correspondent to the dog star, and the dog star constellation is on the flag of Brazil. This card is jumped off and done quite a number on my imagination, as one of my initiating kicks in Capoeira was Relógio. Or no. The Esdobrado is a double K kick, kind of a helicopter kick maneuver that initiated me so long ago. And I believe my instructor was even wearing these colors. Very Brazilian. But it turns out Frederick Nietzsche met with Dom Pedro. This is the rumor. This is all fabricated rumor. but that they had a lengthy conversation and got to know each other as uh, just random strangers on a train before Nietzsche found out after the fact that he was the emperor of Brazil. It's not a true story. It's not a true story. But the myth has a lot of oomph. It has a lot of oomph. Is this Rick's player down in that number 4 spot is correspondent to the train of frenzies. And if you look up entrainment, it'll tell you about lightning bugs and how lightning bugs syncopate to one another. And so at the end of Frederick Nietzsche hanging out with Don Pedro, he actually gives Homie a hug. So there's a physical transmission in the myth that the Nietzschean spirit was passed on to Don Pedro. And Don Pedro was known to be a huge fan of Frederick Nietzsche, in fact. So yeah, very profound correspondences. And sure enough, I start looking at portraits of Don Pedro, and guess what, folks? Maps of South America. In the profiles, in the negative space, there are multiple portraits of Don Pedro with the map of South America hiding out in the shadow of the negative space of the art of his portraiture. But what really excites me is how on October 2nd, there's going to be a leg sweep. They're going to sweep the leg, Johnny. And the Hasteda is the leg sweeping maneuver of the capoeirista. And so I'm just keeping these things on everybody's radar because it does seem to me, as far as I can tell, that there is a great amount of significance around this eclipse coming up on October 2nd. To such a degree that it may have been prophesied in the portraiture of the royal houses and also embedded into the Fool card. So if anybody wants to, go watch Essential Salts. He just did an episode on Frederick Nietzsche and Don Pedro. And then I'm going to just bring forward an image of the Centaur. Maybe a couple images. I'm going to need 2 images for this. So the Centaur is, as we are passing into through the fall equinox at this time of year, we're actually riding out of the centaur's body, is kind of up here in Virgo, and we're crossing down on his staff. It extends across the equinox, and then once we're over here in Libra, where we are now, that's where the Lupus constellation is. This is the card signified by Centaurus, and I was just brushing up on the myth of Theseus, as Theseus defeats the Minotaur in the center of a maze. Now, a Minotaur is not a centaur. They're not the exact same, right? Yeah, a centaur is a horseman, and a Minotaur is a bull, a tur, of Minos, in the island of Minos. But there were sacrificial offerings required that they would send in 7 male and 7 female virgins to be sacrificed on sacred days in that maze. And then Theseus, he kind of dresses himself up as one of the sacrificial virgins and then defeats the Minotaur in the maze. This constellation is very significant. It's incredibly significant. It's so important. It has the mosca, the fly stinging its heel. Very correspondent to Bellerophon, as Bellerophon, that horse is stung by a gadfly and goes through a fall. Centaur is literally pointing its way into the fall seasons. Also, lupus on the end of its spear. The word lupus actually means whore. It means lubricious woman. The gears have been greased, and she's ready to say yes. So that is signified in Libra as, but on the other side of the lubricious woman, lupus, is a virgin. So here we have Libra, the lubricious woman, the lupus, the outlaw, and she is quick to say yes. There's a certain desperation to it. But on the other side is the Virgin. And underneath the Centaur is the Crux constellation. The Crux constellation is called the Coptic cross. It is an equilateral cross, and it is considered in the ancient days the Crux constellation and the Coptic cross was the cross of the slave class. And so 9/11 is the Coptic New Year. That is to say, it is the New Year of the slaves. And so Frederick Nietzsche would be giggling his ass off at all of the slave mentality of associating with 9/11 as your identifying traumatic event. There is a lot of Nietzschean, what's the word? Insult. There's a lot of Nietzschean insult that comes our way from the class caste system that we have been forged by. So I just wanted to fiat lux that mofo, bring some light to the fact that I don't consider myself a slave to any damn buddy, and 9/11 was definitely nobody's birthday as far as I'm concerned. So I just wanted to slay the Minotaur in the maze of these correspondences as as we move into the solar eclipse on October 2nd, which is the commencement of, or the beginning that marks the initiation of the Navaratri on October 3rd, going all the way through till October 12th. All right, everybody. Big love and respect. I hope you enjoyed the weaves. Come on down to Slick Dissident. Check out my new Lunalemma t-shirt or hoodie as we pull the rug out from under these symbol manipulators on high. These principalities in high and low places. All right. Big love and respect.